SUVs are the world's most popular car, but we are getting a bit sick of them, aren't we? Do you know what I'd like to see, apart from slightly better weather, is something to challenge the family car status quo, something a bit different. Something a bit like this.
This is Auto Trader UK, where we drive the latest, the greatest, giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So strap in, subscribe, and if you have been watching,
Don't stop. Don't ever stop.
this is the VW ID Buzz, an all-electric minivan based on the original Type 2 microbus of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It offers everything you'd want in an SUV: a high driving position, lots of practicality, 250 miles of range, and all for a starting price of £57,000. But its best trick is that it delivers all of that alongside a decent dollop of style.
It does look good, doesn't it? Far more attractive than most minivans. It's just got this charming, eager little face to it. Okay, it doesn't have the same design attributes as the original Type 2s, for example, the split windscreen and the circular lights, but it does have this giant VW badge in the center. Looks a bit like a nose, smack bang in the middle of this LED light bar that connects to these very angular front lights. It's available in a variety, God, this is biblical, variety of colors, solid colors. You can get all black, for example, but it's also available in two-tone, which gives it a colored lower section and a white upper. In this design, it looks kind of like a clown car, I'm not gonna lie to you, but the solid black is extremely attractive, and I do like this lower bumper section with this perforated design, although it does have a tendency for collecting leaves and other debris. Right, let's look at the side.
The ID Buzz is 4.7 meters long with really short front and rear overhangs, meaning the wheels are pushed right to the edges of the car. 19, 20 and 21-inch wheels are available. Ours came with some fairly snazzy looking aero covers, but you can pop those off and the wheels themselves are fairly attractive. The cabin is easily accessed by two sliding doors, one on either side, which are electrically powered on some trim levels. Very usable, although the door runners do have some fairly dubious weld quality if you look closely.
As for the rear, it doesn't have any particular standout design elements. It's all quite big and blocky, but again, you've got this huge LED bar across the center, big old VW badge just there, and it opens up nice and wide to reveal the greatest thing, I think, about the ID Buzz, and that is the storage space. We've got all our camera equipment in here right now because otherwise it might get soaked, but this car has over 1,100 litres of space. For reference, a BMW X5, a family car, big family car, I've got one, is only around 600 litres. So this thing is absolutely mammoth. It's got this false floor, which gives you storage underneath for carrying your charge cables or other little bits and bobs, and a parcel cover just here to protect the innocence of all your valuables. But again, a huge amount of space in this car. This false floor is actually quite useful because it allows you to fold that second row of seats completely flat. Wait there, I'll show you. Nice and easy. So you actually get a really flat load bay, which Volkswagen say is actually big enough to accommodate a mattress. So you could actually sleep in this car. Another cool element is this button here, which reveals a tow hook. So you can actually tow up to 1,000 kilograms, a ton. So you can actually tow a trailer with you wherever you go. And let me show you another area just around here, which is slightly annoying for me, and that is the charge port. Nice and big, but the problem with this is it's on the rear right-hand corner of the ID Buzz, and in some places you might struggle to connect your charging cable. I guarantee you this will charge from 5% to 80% in around half an hour at 170 kilowatts, or overnight at 7 kilowatts as normal. Right, I'm getting inside. Okay, let me show you in the passenger compartment of the ID Buzz. First thing to say is that it's really, really spacious, a lot of legroom, and because it doesn't slope down like normal SUVs, you get a lot of headroom as well. The seats slide forward and backward to give you more space in the cabin or more space in the boot as if you need it, and they actually recline as well, so it's really good on long journeys. A couple of other cool touches. You've got this little pocket for storing your gadgets. I've got my mobile phone tucked away in there. You also have, just like you do on a lot of Skoda vehicles, a little tray where you can have your kids eat their sandwiches. It also doubles as a little holder for your mobile phone for you to watch movies on the go. A couple of bits that I don't like. First off, these windows don't wind down. That could be a deal breaker for some people. Also, no sunroof, so a tad dark. Lots of windows, but slightly dark. And one thing that I've noticed, having jumped in the rain, look at this. This car uses recycled materials, and what I've noticed is that it might be my blue denim and the wetness, but that looks as if it might be beginning to stain. Worth bearing in mind.
The materials are interesting. VW offers optional two-tone designs that match the exterior if you so choose. And all of it is sustainable, no leather here. The fabric is 90% recycled plastic bottles and 10% plastic collected from the sea, but in these lighter colours, in the hands of mucky children or damp motoring journalists, they could be a magnet for dirt. There are no black seat options available right now, and it does raise the question, is this sustainable solution really that sustainable if you have to keep replacing it every time it gets dirty? And before you ask, these jeans have never stained the very white, very leather seats in my BMW X5.
Up front is a lot to like about the VW ID Buzz. First of all, the practicality is off the charts. You get a nice big glove box, some storage just above that, a little cubby hole with 2 USB ports, an extra USB in the door, huge door pockets. You're not going to be shy of places to put your stuff in this car. You can even dump stuff on this enormous dashboard as well. And then down here, you've got what they call the Buzz box, which gives you extra storage at the front and at the top. Plus, for some reason, if you don't like it, you can actually remove it and chuck it outside. Perhaps put an extra bag in the space between the driver and passenger seat. I'm not really sure why they do it, but they do it, so maybe we should be grateful. A couple of things that you might be interested in with the Buzz box is, number one, it has a ice scraper, and number two, a bottle opener. So if you ever get thirsty on the road, you can use those two as well. Not sure why you need it, but it's interesting that it's there. So what's it like to drive? Well, the first thing to discuss is the driving position, which feels a lot like a van, and that is not a cuss because I like driving vans. You sit up really high, like you're in an armchair on wheels. This thing's actually got a couple of armrests here. You sit nice and tall, you see all around you. It's really quite nice to sit in the ID Buzz. The visibility in this car is really good as well. The windscreen is miles away from you, and you just know that at the end of the windscreen, because there's no long bonnet, that's pretty much where the car ends. And that makes it really easy to place. You've also got a nice big greenhouse around you, 2 forward windows that make it really simple to see what's in front of the car, especially at the corners. Huge windows by the driver, massive windows in the second row, and also enormous windows at the very back. So seeing out of this car is nice and simple, and that means maneuvering it is very confidence inspiring. It's quite big, it's very wide, this thing, so threading it through a narrow street isn't always going to be the easiest, but because you can see really well, it's no problem. Refinement is good as well. I know it's electric, so it should be, but it's very, very quiet. Very little road noise, believe it or not. I've only driven it up to around 60 miles an hour, no motorway driving so far. And there was a little bit of wind noise, and you would expect that because it's such a tall car with huge door mirrors, but no complaints from me whatsoever. It's incredibly refined. The suspension is good as well. That's not always the case with vans or electric cars, because what tends to happen is that they need to make stiffer suspension in these cars to counteract the weight, to make sure they don't topple over in the corners. But actually, this is decent. It rides larger imperfections pretty well. The smaller ones do make it jiggle somewhat, but on the whole, suspension, good. The performance is acceptable, I would say. There's only one version of the ID Buzz at the time that I'm doing this review. It's a rear-wheel drive, single motor, that makes 204 PS, around 200 horsepower, and that will do 0 to 62 in around 10 seconds and 90 miles an hour flat out. Torque is, it's all right, isn't it? It's 310 Newton meters, so it's decent. It's got an okay turn of pace, especially for something this big, but it's definitely not gonna knock your socks off when it comes to outright performance.
As for the tech, well, it's very similar to any VW product, with a main infotainment display in the center and a smaller one attached to the steering column. It has pretty much everything you need, except good usability.
Here's something I want to moan about. The windows are steaming up. I'm going to pull over for a minute. I'm going to ask my cameraman to turn the AC on. Go on. Let's see if you can figure it out.
I don't know where to start.
There's a timer on the screen. I'm just going to sit here. I tried this earlier on and I couldn't do it. So I'm wondering if I'm an idiot or if these systems are really, really hard to actually operate. And something as simple as turning the AC on, anyone should be able to do this. That's not it, by the way. That's not it. No, that's not it.
Menu, climate.
Yep, okay. Now what? Now what? No. He's stabbing random things on the screen. And he's found it. All right, stop the timer. That's how long it took a grown adult to find out how to turn the AC on. It just shouldn't be this way. Give us knobs. You might think I'm being a bit harsh with the infotainment system, but genuinely, it's too difficult to use. And quite often in VW group cars, lately, the systems sometimes don't even work. They freeze, they tend to be a little bit buggy. I haven't experienced the bugginess in the ID Buzz as yet, but it's the same system, and it wouldn't surprise me if there were some issues with responsiveness. There's loads of stuff to moan about here. For example, the temperature controls, they don't light up, so in the dark you can't see where hot and cold is. I despair. In terms of range, Volkswagen claim it'll do 258 miles to a full charge. When I got in this morning, it said it would do over 300 miles on the battery, which felt a little bit optimistic. And I've been driving around all day, reset the trip computer, and I've been averaging over the course of 3 hours, 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. I remind you, it's got a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack. Multiply 1.5 by 77 and you get 115 miles, which seems quite low. And again, I'm getting contradicting information from this display, which is showing 79% battery and 186 miles of range. It's a little bit confusing, and I suspect that if you ever run low on battery charge in this car, trying to work out exactly how much range you have might be a little bit hit and miss, shall we say. It's got to be said that the VW ID Buzz has had exactly that, a huge buzz surrounding it. Does it live up to the hype? Well, it's got a lot of really good things going for it. First of all, it looks great, I think. It also drives very well, it's very refined, and the practicality is off the charts. In that respect, this is a win-win. It's not all perfect though. The performance is a little bit lackluster. I wouldn't exactly call it fun to drive. And the jury, for me, is still out on the materials in this car. Long story short, get it in a dark finish. Otherwise, you might regret it. But on the whole, I think this is a very creditable alternative to an SUV. Go check it out.